morning, guys. It's the Swordfish once again with some more Hearthstone gameplay. Boom. Actually, more than gameplay, I'm just going to showcase a new deck I made, which is doing really fucking well. And I'll show you guys some gameplay later, or maybe earlier. I don't really know when this video is going to get posted, to be honest. As of now, I don't have any gameplay of this deck recorded, but anyway, it's a really fucking good deck. As far as I'm concerned, it's getting me really far. What does that mean? Whatever. By the way, little known trick. When you have extra cards, don't disenchant them right away. That's not that smart, because whenever the cards get changed, you get full price for them, right? So the idea is, if you can actually wait. I have more extra cards which I've disenchanted for dust. But if you don't need the dust immediately, keep it that way, because it'll give you more value eventually, in theory. Also, never disenchant cards to get a new card unless they're extra. Unless you're going for like a specific class, and only it will ever pay that class, but I don't think that will ever happen, because like if you actually go into crafting mode and you like check this, like this is not worth it. Like creating a card for 40 disenchanting for an eighth of its price. I think sorry, in this case, in the case of rares, it's a fifth of this price, but it's still not worth it at all. In the case of legendaries, it's the best case scenario, and it's only a fourth of its price, so it's really not worth it at all. Anyway, the Shaman power deck, it's a deck which excels in early game control, but not early game aggression, with a lot of card draw, considerable amount of card draw, so that in late game you can crush them with your legendaries. Okay, which is, I have 3 legendaries, they're all in this deck. Like, it's not like I'm playing fucking, like the pros who use like 6 legendaries in one deck, and you face them and it's like, ah, fuck it, I forfeit. You know, it's not. No. Anyway, have the lightning bolt here, golden lightning bolt, but that's just because I don't know if I have. Yeah, okay. I just like to showcase my golden cards, to be honest. Woo, I have like 3 here. So, anyway, golden lightning bolt is a great card for early game. Never keep it in your hand, however, in the early game, because the fact that it overloads really destroys your next turn. It's really bad in terms of that, but it's a card for early game control in terms of like a 3 or 4 mana when you can summon a totem with it or something along those lines. Don't use it at the first or second turn. I wouldn't recommend it, at least. It's a great card though, and dealing 3 damage is pretty much guarantees that any minion before turn 4 is destroyed by this, and most minions after turn 4 or turn 5 you'll be able to use this to your advantage anytime. It's always good to have one of these. Not many of these, because like I said, not that great early game, and the 3 damage is more of an early game damage, so it's a good card, but also not the best of cards. Rock Bladder Weapon, on the other hand, it's a fucking great card. I love it. Except unless you're playing against rushing decks like what's it called? Hunter, or maybe a Warlock rushing deck. Rock Bladder Weapon is one of the best fucking cards for Shaman for early game removal. 3 damage. Yes, you take some damage, but it's really worth it. You can use it first turn really easily. You can use it the second turn. You really want to summon a totem or something like that, but you can use it first or third turn, whatever. It's really great. It's really easy to combine with other cards. And if you have the coin, it's pretty much a guaranteed Rock Bladder Weapon. So I think it's really fucking good. Stormforged Axe, in my opinion, a great card, because of even though it has the 1 overload, and I don't like that in Lightning Bolt, I do like that in Stormforged Axe, because this is a 1-turn removal. You kill a minion, that's it. There's no more use for it. This is a 3-turn removal. You can remove cards for 3 turns, and that's pretty fucking great. In addition to that, it's also the fact that, you can actually use this to kill bigger minions, and combining with things like Lightning Bolt or Rock Bladder to actually destroy minions really easily without you necessarily losing a minion. Ancestral Spirit, I only have 1 because I only actually have 1 of these cards, but I don't think that I would put any more if I had any, because you don't want to get too many of these, because you have, I don't have that many high-end minions, but you do want to have 1 of these, because it's a guaranteed high-end minion coming back if you use it properly. And sometimes you want to use it with a taunt or something along those lines. It's a really great card. It's only for 2 mana in addition, so that's fucking great. That's really good. And you can also use it on your opponent if they have some sort of like guy with a bad death rattle or something like that. And what are some of the legendaries that have that? You can use it to really destroy them. I have a game. I didn't record it, but I had a game where I used it. I think it was the Beast. That's what the card is called. And I used Ancestral Spirit on it, and boom, boom, got me two things. So it's hard to remove, but like since I have so much removal in this deck, it was actually really good. Anyway, Flame Tongue Totem. A must-have in any Shaman deck, in my opinion. It's a really good card, especially to dominate early game, because you can summon a totem, then he thinks, it's just a totem, especially if it's like a healing totem, or even, Searing totem, I guess, is kind of dangerous, but the healing totem especially, they just let it be. They really don't care about it, so you summon this next, it's like, oh! Boom, you're dead. You know, well, 2 damage is a considerable amount of damage, and it creates a 2/2 out of your totems, which is pretty good. So it's great, especially because it makes useless units into good units. So that means you'll get pretty much a free attack every time you have a useless unit on the board, which is great. Knife Juggler, another must-have in most Shaman decks. It's not a Shaman exclusive, but I really think it should be, or Paladin, because Knife Juggler is great in most decks, obviously, but it's a great card. It's a great 3/2, solid 3/2, and his effect is amazing. But when you have the ability to summon a totem every goddamn turn, and you have Feral Spirits to combine with that, this guy is just so great. He can dish out so much damage due to his ability and stay alive for a long, long time. Especially considering the high amount of early game like removal I have. But you also have to consider that this guy is valuable, but not that valuable. So don't be afraid of just sending him out. Don't send him out against like a 2/3 or against a 3/2 that you know he's gonna die right away. But don't be afraid of sending him out first, so you can start dishing out damage and gain the earlier game advantage. So then you can like actually last to the late game, because this is more a mid game oriented deck, mid to late game oriented deck. But the late game are more finishers than anything. So if you're facing a druid or something along those lines, you're screwed. So try to get the early game domination. Loot Hoarder, I have 2 of these just for a lot of card draw. I think card draw is really important in this deck, and I have a lot of it. I mean, it's not the best of cards, 2/1, Death Rattle, draw a card, but, I think it's pretty good, and it's also one of those cards that they ignore many times, just do not give you the card draw, give you the card advantage. They will just ignore this guy, or maybe not even ping it sometimes. So you can really combine it with Rock Biter or Knife Juggler or Flame Tongue and really get some damage out with this guy, even though he's not that great of a card. Also, the good thing is that if he is pinged, he is not a card you want on the board because you're not going for early game domination. But if he is pinged by Fireball or whatever, you're pretty much making your opponent lose a turn, especially in the early game, obviously, not in the late game. But if he's pinged, you're making your opponent lose 2 mana. He's losing a turn, so that's pretty great because the whole point of this deck is to stall till mid and late game. So this is what the cards are for, essentially. Well, except for Ancestral Spirit, which is more for late game oriented things. Then Feral Spirits. The primary reason is that I was golden. No, I'm kidding. I love Feral Spirits. It's a great card. The 2 Overload is pretty harsh, especially in the early game. But you get to mid-late game, these cards are equally good. You combine him with Flame Tongue, you combine him with Knife Juggler, that's a lot of combos. And it's just boom. You boom, 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 boom. These guys are so powerful. Yeah, I mean, honestly. You'll see another combo I'll show you guys later. But these Feral Spirits, 2 taunts for 3 is amazing. 2 2/3s. That would be like a 4 play. But these guys also have taunt. Yes, you have the Overload, but if you use them wisely, you can pretty much... The Overload is not that big a deal for you, especially, in this deck, which is a lot of mid-game. It's not that big a deal. And these guys are great for early game, late game, and middle game. Also, the greatest thing about these 2 is that they're taunts, so they're made to stall, which is the point of the early game of this deck, like I said. Hex, I only have 1 because it's a good removal, but you probably won't need that much removal in this deck. For like big minions, because you have your own big minions, so there's that. But it's a good removal. It's a must-have in all Shaman decks, but it also gives your opponent a taunt, so you have to be really careful with this thing. I've seen people lose a game because they gave me a taunt, and they just gave me the frog, and then when they had to destroy my minions, they couldn't destroy them because they had a stupid taunt on the board. So it's a really dangerous card if you don't use it wisely, because you can't ping it like the mage does. So be careful, but it's not that bad. It's a pretty good card. Also gets you 0/1, so it saves you one of the minions and can destroy any big late game minions they send out. That's pretty good if you have it. Lava Burst, kind of the same stuff, only better than Hex, but it has an Overload. But if you use it wisely and you use it with a Wrath of the Air totem, that's really good card. 6 damage Wrath of the Air, 5 damage alone can kill pretty much most minions, except for like the big end guys. And if you use, 3 mana for 5 damage is a great card. But, only, maybe Warlocks. Shadow Bolt is almost as good, but you don't have the Wrath of the Air totem as a Warlock, so this is even better. The Overload, too, is kind of harsh. It's actually especially harsh, because when you use this when you're behind, mostly, or yeah, it's mostly when you're behind. So it's hard to play this card. You have to really know what you're doing. But you know, it's if you play it well, and if you're playing Shaman, you should know how to use the overload well. It's actually a pretty good card. Lightning Storm, again, a must-have. You need to have some sort of board clear. That's pretty self-explanatory. There's no more to it. Like, it's a board clear. You need a board clear in your deck just because. And also, I mean, the 2-3 damage for 3 is not bad. The Overload's pretty bad, but if you can get, like, you don't use Lightning Storm by itself. I've seen many people do it, and that's really bad. Especially if it's, like, turn 3, turn 4. It doesn't matter if your opponent has a lot of minions. Don't use it. Let yourself be hit by more damage, and let him summon more minions. So, 1, this becomes more effective, and so 2, when you use Lightning Storm, you can summon a minion with it. That's the best of uses, because the Overload will kill pretty much your next turn, unless you're, like, at turn 6 or 7. So, you want to summon a minion with it, so that, you know, you have the board advantage, and even if they attack you or whatnot, you know, you at least can summon, you can, you know, you have something on the board. So, not a mini like Loot Hoarder, though. A mini like maybe Knife Juggler or Harvest Golem. So, be careful. The Overload is really dangerous thing. So, be careful. Use this wisely. Don't use this just randomly like it's a mage, okay? Yeah, cool. Harvest Golem. I only have 1 because I don't have space for more in my deck, but I would gladly put 2. I guess. I mean, it's a good card. It's a really good card for the board control. Especially considering the fact that this is all for board control anyway. It's a really good card for board control, combines really well with Knife Juggler, also with Flame Tongue, because a smaller golem can deal 4 damage, even with Rockbiter. You can also use Ancestral Spirit on it for, like, I mean, this is a possibility. I don't like using it, but I've used it before. Ancestral Spirit on Harvest Golem with Knife Juggler on the board is pretty much a guarantee. Boom, 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 boom. Destroying any minions is guaranteed like 2 damage and 3 damage, actually, with the Harvest Golem dying again. And that's just out of the Knife Juggler effect. Granted, Ancestral, they probably will kill a Knife Juggler before you Harvest Golem. But, you know, if you're training and whatnot, you know what I'm saying. You guys know how to play. I'm assuming. So it's a good card. It's a good card for board control. And 3 for a 2-3 is not that bad. And the fact that he summons a 2-1 death golem, damage golem once he dies, it's great. Because I've seen Harvest Golem in the early game pretty much suck up a whole turn from the opponent. And they can't summon anything from it, so they have to just use 2 spells on the Harvest Golem, which is the greatest thing about it, because they can't clear it with area spells, as opposed to most token summoning minions. So this is a great card to just kind of stall the opponent even more, and have a minion on the field, get some board control. You know, it's a good early game card in general. And also, once this guy dies and he uses a turn, you can just summon a Feral Spirit, actually not, like a Knife Juggler plus a Loot Hoarder or whatever, and then get board control again, and then he's like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? Pretty much. Manatite Totem. Again, more card draw. This card is great, to be honest. You summon it turn 3. I mean, he's either forced to use a spell on it, which would suck up most of his turn, or he can't kill it, and you get 1 guaranteed card draw, so it's pretty much like a 3 draw 1 card, not the best, but you are also sucking up his mana, so that's pretty great. It's great for stalling, because he's legit gonna try to kill this almost as much as Knife Juggler. This has like magic taunt, and like, I don't know, ability taunt. This has like magic taunt and just taunt, because it's 0-3, so it's really nice to just kill it. Try to keep this guy alive though. I mean, if possible, get Feral Spirits with Manatite Totem. It's like, boom, you got the card draw, you got the card advantage. The opponent's really screwed, and he's gonna try to kill this very badly. So if they don't have much removal, this is a great card, and if they do, you're stalling them even more. So it's a great card all around. Only have 1 of these though, because similar to the Harvest Golem, even though it's a really good card, it's not the center of your deck anyway. And if you have 2 of these, that's 2 0-3 minions. That's pretty dangerous. Not the best for early game control, in my opinion. Now, Unbound Elementals. First of all, the golden one looks cool as shit. I don't know if that's water, but like that looks really fucking nice. I'm just saying. Like the Feral Spirits doesn't look as nice. The Feral Spirits do. I guess it's not that bad. But this one looks really nice. I love the golden Unbound Elemental. Golden Unbound Elemental. That's it. God damn it. Anyway, Golden Unbound Elemental, really good. You can combine it with Ancestral Spirit. That's actually a valid play. But mostly it's because this deck. Let's count. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overload cards. 6. I'm pretty sure it has 6. Yeah. It has 6 overload cards. That's that's a lot of overload. You might as well use this overload for something, and chances are you'll get this to like a 3-5 or something like that for 3, which is great. And the best thing is when you combine these guys with the Feral Spirits, it's like, boom. Goodbye. Like, because they're going to have to deal with, they really want to deal with this. This is a really good card to just kind of taunt the opponent. Because this guy has some sort of like, they're scared of this guy getting out of hand, so they try to attack it a lot. But the thing is, if you keep the fact that it adds health to it makes it pretty hard to remove unless you're like a not a priest. Oh yeah, I guess a priest too. But if you're unless you're like a mage or a shaman, which is like immediate removal, most decks only have the damage removal. I mean, warlocks have the 6 removal, but that's really hard. So most decks will try to, like, they'll damage this guy. But since you add health every time you use one of these cards, couple that with like a health totem. That's pretty much, this guy's pretty much unkillable. And add feral spirits to that, so that chargers can't kill it. And it's like boom, goodbye. Unbound Elemental is gonna win your game. In most games, it'll actually win your game because they'll forget about this because they think they can't kill it, or on the other hand, they won't. And they'll try to attack it, and while they're trying to attack it, you're summoning more minions, or if they're not trying to attack it, I mean, this guy's going to get out of hand for sure, because he can get to 8-10, so that's pretty strong. And he's going to win the game for you. Also, combined with Wind Speaker, this guy's potentially really powerful, just saying. Cult Master, I think, again, is a must-have in a Shaman deck. Not as good as a Paladin deck, but it's still really good. Gives you a lot of card draw from your totems. And, I mean, he was going to die, most likely, but he's also a very nice card, again, for stalling, because they're going to try to kill him really fast. So, it gives you a lot of card draw from his totems, and considering most of these guys have, like, this special kind of, like, taunt, people will try to kill him really quickly. Cold Master is really easy, just send him out, and then they have to decide, do I want to kill, like, for example, say you have a Knife Juggler on the board. You summon a Cold Master, and there's Knife Juggler and, like, Loot Hoarder. And he's like, sure, do I want to kill a Knife Juggler and give this guy a card? Or do I want to kill the Cult Master and keep the Knife Juggler on the board? And they'll have a hard time with that, because if you keep the Knife Juggler on the board, he has more potential to win the board control than the Cult Master. But the Cult Master gives you card advantage, so they'll be like, card advantage or board control, which one do I choose? And they'll have a hard time, and you'll really fuck them up. Of course, they can just kill both of them, but area spells are not as common in the current meta because aggressive decks are not as seen anymore. So the individual spells to kill 2 cards is kind of hard. So the fact they have a lot of minions who have really nice effects but not necessarily too much damage is really great, because they'll pretty much have a really hard time choosing who to kill, and meanwhile you just pummeling his face. Dark Iron Dwarf, only one of these. Only one Cult Master, because even though it's a good card and it gives you a lot of card advantage, you already have a lot of other options to get like card draw and whatnot. So, I mean, you don't want to overdo the card draw. And, I mean, 4-2 is a pretty horrible thing. It's pretty horrible. It's really easy to kill this guy. So, I mean, like I said, they have to choose between Knife Juggler and Cult Master, but if they choose Cult Master, goodbye Cult Master, that's it. Maybe you want to combine it with Ancestral Spirit, it's a possibility, but, I mean, not that great. Dark Iron Dwarf, a great card. Especially combined with totems, it will allow the totems to just do 2 damage and kill pretty much all early game minions. Granted, this is not going to be an early game card, but you guys wouldn't get what I mean. You can summon a 3-2 at turn 6. It doesn't mean that you can't. I'm guessing they will. Also, 4-4 for 4 is pretty solid. And the 2 damage can actually help you out a lot, especially if you combine with Unbound Elementals, because the fact that this is a 2-4, it's kind of bad, because this damage it gets is really not that great. Like I said, it's 8-10. Yeah, it's 8-10, which is good. I mean, 8 is amazing, but it's still, like, you can see that, it takes, like, maybe 3 or 4 turns, 3 or 4 overloads for this guy to become really relevant in terms of damage. So Dark Iron Dwarf really helps him out. The fact that you can add health every turn, plus the Dark Iron Dwarf makes this, like, a really great removal card. So that's the great thing about it. Gnomish Inventor, really solid card, in my opinion. 2-4 is actually pretty great because of the health. Really great for early game 2. If you summon him turn 4, as he's hard to kill. He's not the easiest to kill. They probably will have to sacrifice at least 1 minion and 1 card. So he's probably, most of the time, he's a 2 for 1. And the fact that you draw a card is great. And that's like, what? 1, 2... we have 5 card draw in this deck. 5 things which will draw you a card. Amazing. So just adding up to that card draw. Wind Speaker. Um, I think this is a great card to have in any deck which has. I mean, 4 for 3/3 is not that great. I mean the what's it called? The what's his name? Oh, god damn it, the Peacekeeper. Alduin Peacekeeper. I believe. The guy who the paladin guy who reduces the health to 1. This is like the version for Shaman, honestly. Like the 3/3 that has a really nice effect. Wait, let me just check it for a second. All sets. No. Wait. Yeah. Okay, so let me check the paladin Peacekeeper, I believe it's called. Yeah, Aldor Peacekeeper. That's it. Sorry. Okay, so the Aldor Peacekeeper is kind of like a shittier version of it, but it has a lot of potential. It has a huge potential. Like I said, combined with the Unbound Elemental, you get a really nice removal card, and like minion removal card, and a good board control. Or on the other hand, combine it with one of the high-end minions, especially Gruul, and that's GG pretty much. Though I haven't really used this guy much. I've used him like in 2 games out of the like 20 I've played. I've won most of them, by the way, but you know, I haven't used this guy too much, but he seems he has a lot of potential, and he's a really niche card. Like you can only use him in some kind of situations. So he's not the best of cards, but definitely has a lot of potential. So I'm gonna keep it in the deck for now because I have nothing better to put in. I can maybe put in an Earth Shock, but the science is not really not that worth it. Maybe a Fork. I don't like Fork Lightning that much. Yeah, so I'm going to keep this guy for now unless he proves to be like the nuisance in the deck and I need space for something else. Okay. Now, Doomhammer is a great card. Period. First of all, it adds to the Overload, which, I mean, the Overload is bad, but if you have an Unbound Elemental, you want to have a lot of Overload cards. Especially if you have 2 Unbound Elementals, you want to have a lot of Overload cards. So, you know, adds to that. It's a late game Overload, so it's not that important. Like, usually don't use this turn 5 because you want to use it, like, in combination where you have something on the board, something along those lines. I have been using it for removal rather than direct damage, even though it's perfectly fine to use it for direct damage. But for removal, it's actually a really good card. The fact that you have so much Feral Spirits here pretty much allows for you not to take too much damage if you don't want to. So the Doomhammer can add to that. You can take damage with a Doomhammer because of all the Feral Spirits you have. 2 Doomhammers is overkill in my opinion. I mean, it's a really good weapon. I'm not saying it isn't. It's 16 damage potentially to the enemy. So 2 Doomhammers could potentially win the game. But I mean, but it takes, first of all, it takes 4 turns. So I would take 8 turns for 2 Doomhammers. So that'd be, assuming you have the 2 Doomhammers starting turn 5, you win at turn 13. And that's considering that he's not killing you and you're not summoning many more minions and he's not healing himself or using armor. So I mean, potentially on paper this card is really great, but when you actually use it in practice, it's not that great. It's mostly for minion removal. That's what I use it for. In combination with things like what's it called? The Rock Biter weapon. It can win games, but at the same time you gotta be careful that you use this. So that's why I only have 1. Also, I only have 1 card. But that's beyond the point. I actually don't want more Doomhammers on my deck. And, well, it's good to have one of these. It's always good to have a Doomhammer because of the possibility of dealing 16 direct damage and the nice removal. And, I mean, 5 for this kind of weapon is really great, even though it has an overload. So, I mean, it's necessary to include this in most Shaman decks if you're going for control. But board control, but at the same time, you know, don't overdo it. They're not that great. Be careful what like, this is like communism, guys. It seems really good on paper, but in practice it's not that great. Fire Elementals, this has 2 reasons. First of all, it's a nice high-end minion, like a 6/5. I'd rather it be a 5/6 in my opinion, but the more health the better, obviously. But a 6/5 is pretty good, and the fact that it deals 3 damage allows for you to, if you're behind in the early game, you can pretty much use the Fire Elemental and, you know, kill whatever's left. So it's a really nice way to get back on top. To, you know, I mean, apart from summoning a 6/5, a 3 damage will kill a lot of minions. You can also win games, so you can use it to attack directly. This is perfectly fine. You can use it to attack directly attack the opponent directly. 3 damage, and will probably win you a couple games because these games tend to be really close, in my opinion. I mean, the games I've played tend to be pretty close, and so I'll have like a Fire Elemental on the board and maybe a Dark Iron Dwarf. And the opponent will be at 12, right? So I'll just summon another Fire Elemental and destroy him with a 3 damage. So it's a really nice way to kill minions, maybe win you the game. It's a really good high-end minion too. And if you combine it with Ancestral Spirit, this guy's gonna remove a lot of minions. You need a 2/3 to at least kill it, or maybe a 5 or a 4 and a 1. But anyway, you know, you're gonna lose pretty good minions or a lot of minions. So if you use Ancestral Spirit with it, it's a pretty good card. It's a pretty good card. I have 2 of these, by the way, because it's just that great. Also, I don't have that much late game, so this is part of the big ass late game. Sylvanas, I haven't used it that much, but it has won me the last game I just played by getting a Jetson Auctioneer and combining that with all my fucking spells. Which is I have a considerable amount of spells, I guess, in the game. I mean, in the deck, I suppose. Really, really, really good card. I mean, 6 spells, I think. No, 8 spells. So that is no, 6. Sorry, 6 spells. I mean, that's a fourth of the deck. No, a little more than a fourth. Anyway. Sylvanas can potentially be a really good card, can potentially be not that great of a card, but 6 for a 5/5 combined with Ancestral Spirit actually destroys your opponent, because you use Ancestral Spirit on this guy, your opponent has to kill it, obviously. And if they don't use spells, they use minions, and you actually take over 1 minion, that's 1 minion you took over. Then you have a 5/5 still, and you can still take over another minion. So if you use this when your opponent has a lot of minions on the board, this is a really good card. It's just really good, and many people I've seen cannot deal with Sylvanas, even at the high level. I used to be like in higher ranked, not anymore. I'm like rank 14, 12, 13. I'm not really sure. Along those ranks, people had a really hard time dealing with Sylvanas because they didn't know how to. If they had minions on the board, they didn't know how to use it. You know, because they would sacrifice like their small minions, and then I'd end up getting their big minions. So it was really stupid. I've seen very few people actually know how to, you know, properly deal with Sylvanas, so that's really great. Use that to your advantage. Gruul, great card if you get to late game. Pretty much guaranteed an 8/8, unless they silence it, obviously. But silence, I mean, it is common, but still a 7/7, so it's pretty good. And, you know, it's not that bad. Combine this guy with Windspeaker, like I said, devastating. But this guy's pretty good for the fact that it gains 1/1, so it can destroy 1 minion and not lose any health, but still get the damage. And just potentially kill your opponent. At the point you have Gruul, the opponent is going to freak out. If they have no removal, they're going to really freak out. And they're going to use their removal before, because you have Fire Elementals, you have Sylvanas, you have Unbound Elementals. Even Knife Juggler, they might use it on him. You never know. On Manatite Totem, they have a lot of things they have to remove before, so when you actually send on Gruul, they're like, oh, fuck, what do we do now? You know? And then if this doesn't work out, we have Ragnaros, which is our finisher, essentially. It's an 8 damage the first turn, so it's like an 8 damage charge, even though you can't actually control it. So he's not necessarily a finisher for sure, but he's definitely a guy you get out on the field and it's like, boom. Okay, now I'm in a dominating position, because you at least deal 8 damage with him, so to something, maybe a minion, maybe your opponent. So a great card in general, and these 2 are the legendary finishers, really good cards. These are kind of, I mean, overpowered in terms of, like, these are better than fucking Windspeaker or Gnomish Inventor or something like that. You know, so better than most, than War Golem and then blah blah blah. What's it called? Let's go. I know, look for the little high-end cards. These, like, if you compare these guys to high-end cards like War Golem, Gruul is better than War Golem, essentially. Even if the only case in when he's not better is if he gets silenced. But still, I mean, the chances of that. And Ragnaros is definitely better than War Golem. And these 2 are mostly better than Boulder for Stoker, as long as you can get to them. So, you know, both great cards. So, definitely great to have them in the deck. So that's my Shaman Power deck. I need to come up with a better name. It's not themed, so I don't really know what to call it. I don't want to call it, like, board control deck, like one of those nerds. You know, I'm a cool kid, what can I say? But that's my commentary for today. Hopefully you'll see me... Oh, shit. What did I remove here? Ah, fuck me. I just removed something. Oh my god! Freak out. Oh, I removed the Fire Elemental. Okay. Anyway, so, you know, that's my deck. Feel free to copy it if you want to. I don't really care. You're seeing it here. You can just rewatch the video as much as you can. Actually, if you're rewatching the video just to copy my deck, refresh the page so I get another view. I mean, why not? Like, subscribe, blah, 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 for more Hearthstone gameplay, so and so. Now, I'll see you guys next time with an actual game with this deck, where you'll see me dominate my opponent and stick a spiked dildo of Shaman up their asshole. Spiked green dildo, mind you. Yep. Alright, so that's the game. I mean, that's not the game. There's no fucking game. That's the deck. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you actually use it, but don't steal it from me, because, I mean, I want to go places. I want to become a Hearthstone MLG player. Actually, no, I want to become a Dota MLG player. That's not going anywhere, so whatever. I'll see you guys next time.